So this message is specifically for the people who oversee the DNC, the Democratic National Convention. I currently live in Denver, Colorado, so I'm tagging the Colorado Dems. I'm also tagging just like the Democrat social media handles on TikTok, YouTube, wherever, because as always, it's no surprise that Denver would be considered to host the DNC convention in 2028, right? Because it's a liberal city. But I'm here to plead, absolutely not. Do not come to Denver, Colorado in 2028. And here's why. Now, full disclosure, I'm a nobody, right? I am starting a podcast. I am a singer, songwriter. I'm a writer. I wrote a book recently, but I am not a political analyst. I'm not a political commentator. I just have opinions on politics. In another life, maybe I would have done this full time, right? But in this lifetime, the good Lord did not grant me enough patience to deal with what women have to deal with in politics, specifically women of color, all right? Now, I live in Denver, and that's why I'm just going to say what I'm about to say. However, it's no secret that the Latino community is pretty divided right now. And I know that Democrats specifically have more reliable and more accurate voting statistics on this past election. So you see by a huge margin just how much the Democrats lost to the Latino vote. Now, follow me. Wouldn't it be wise to maybe pick a city with a higher Latino population to appeal to the Latinos, right? Because it's about 50-50, I don't know. Now, I know without a shadow of a doubt that the people who make these decisions don't live under a rock. They're very well aware of what's happening in the South, specifically to the Black vote, right? I would love to see the Democrats host their convention smack dab in the middle of it. Hello, Georgia's right there. It's kind of a slap in the face, and I can't be the only person of color to feel this way, if the Democrats would choose one of the whitest cities in America to host perhaps their biggest, most important, influential convention in white America. Granted, Denver is liberal, right? It's democratic, but Denver does not deserve to host the DNC in 2028. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Now, let me spill the tea on Denver, Colorado as a person of color, as a Black Mexican American, okay? I've lived here for almost 4 years, and I'm from the racist South. I'm from NASCAR country, okay? And when I say I feel more at odds here than I did there, I'm not joking. People are not as kind and nice here as they want to portray themselves to be, okay? They're not as accepting here. I wasn't prepared for how niche specific Denver was. And if you don't fall into any of these niches, you have no place here. If you think differently, you have no place here. I've kind of given up on making friends, or again, like I said, I'm a writer, I'm a musician, and I'm starting to put myself out here in these groups and in these communities or whatever. And I'm not saying it's been all, bad. I that's not what I'm saying. But the amount of just looks I get, not even being addressed as a human being in these spaces is kind of wild to me, right? This is Jill Stein country. This is independent country. This is, I couldn't bring myself to vote for overqualified, educated Black woman for president because of her alleged stance on Palestine country. When their sources are what? TikTok, YouTube shorts? Because I would ask these people. And the thing about it is Kamala Harris specifically addressed this topic and they still didn't want to vote for her, right? So call that whatever you want to call it. That's not democratic. You know what? Let me talk about Republicans really quickly. You got to give it to Republicans. A month or so ago, there was this white woman on TikTok asking liberals, right, Democrats specifically, why they didn't want to be leftists. And that was news to me because I was like, whoa. When did we decide that those two things were different? How many factions of the Democratic Party is this now? 5, 6, 7? That's our issue. Like I said, give it up to the Republicans because they always present a united front. They don't deviate. They don't falter. They can't even separate themselves from rapists and baby eaters and child predators, okay? That's how united of a front they always present. And that's why they are in power. That's why they are doing whatever they can do without consequence, without even getting checked, to keep that power. And you know what? It's working. Because the Democratic Party, the Democratic side, are too busy fighting amongst each other Okay. You know, I always ask these people, the independents, the anti whatever, I'm like, present a suitable candidate, present a suitable alternative, and they never can. All they do is play purity politics, right? They disagree on one or two, subjects, and instead of talking it out, instead of, again, bringing a viable alternative, they separate themselves, they demonize people of their own Democratic Party, and become the right? Become the opposition. Now, they may not do things to hinder the Democratic Party, but they don't do things to help it, right? So when you don't vote in elections, when you vote independently, vote for someone you know has zero chance of winning, that makes you part of the problem. And that's so prevalent in a place like Denver, okay? So, okay, let's bring it back in. Now, like I said, I'm not trying to be a political commentator. I'm not trying to be a political analyst, not in this lifetime. But I have chosen to speak out specifically a lot right now on my social media about politics, racism, injustice, inequality, things of that nature. And I've said this before, and I'll say this again. I genuinely believe that Republicans, MAGA, they're a lost cause. I do not care to have any dialogue with them. It never goes anywhere. I don't understand their way of thinking. I try. Right. And it just doesn't make sense until they rid themselves of the Trumpism of making excuses for, again, rapists and child predators. I have no desire to communicate, to conversate with them. So I have chosen specifically to call out white liberals, white Democrats, and boy, has it not been pretty, because a lot of the things they do equally make them part of the problem. Now, what prompted this video specifically was I saw on TikTok the Colorado Dems page post that they were being considered to host the Democratic National Convention in 2028. I wasn't the only person of color who went to the comments and was like, nope, pass on Denver, right? We started sharing our experiences as to why, our reasons as to why, and what happens. White liberals, white Democrats tried to gaslight us, try to invalidate our own experiences. You know who does that? Republicans, MAGA, racists, misogynists. Please tell me why that's any different than what they do when you try to invalidate our own personal experiences. And the thing about Denver, again, politics aside, I've seen so many videos of people of color, of Black people, Latinos, talk about their experiences in Denver with racism, with microaggressions, how they don't feel welcomed. Go to the comments, please. Democrats, the Colorado Dems, maybe we can have a conversation about this specifically in our own city, in our own state. How white liberals, white Democrats attack people of color in these comments to try to invalidate their own experiences. It's like you're no different when you do these things, right? Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm not trying to demonize all white Democrats, white leftists, right? White people. I do feel a certain way right now, and I'm working it out for myself because of the situations that I continue to have here in Denver when it comes to white women specifically, right? And let me reiterate, I don't surround myself with white Republican women. I don't surround myself with MAGA women. These are white liberal women, right, that I'm coming in contact with, that I'm having situations I've never dealt with in my entire life, right? I'm so problematic here for just existing. And, it's starting to get to me, but it's getting to me in a good way now, right? Like it's kind of like powering me up for conversations like this and what I'm trying to do in the future. But Democrats, if maybe you're trying to swing or appeal more to the independent white vote, come here, right? If you want an easy slam dunk of a convention, come here, right? I don't think that's what you should do. I think you need to go to a predominantly Latino city, a predominantly Black city. I know I'm not the only person of color who feels this way, but if people of color didn't vote in elections because they felt like their vote doesn't matter before, now it's almost useless. It makes us feel like no matter what we do, our vote does not matter, right? Think about the Black people and the brown people and the Latino people who don't even vote, right? Because of that. Food for thought, Dems, Democrats. Denver ain't it. don't come here.